must-see television, and with all the hate and jealousy that is clearly permeating throughout this league for her, this has turned into not just a sport, but the best reality show in business. We got a bonehead coach. We got a dinglebat commissioner that has no idea what she's doing. We got a girl that can't even make layups, for Christ's sakes, that thinks she's just as good as Caitlin Clark. We got all of...
That was Maurice, speaking live on national television. And what he just exposed is the absolute cluster across the executive offices of the Indiana Fever. Make no mistake, head coach Stephanie White is actively complicating a situation that a high school coach could run in his sleep. We are talking about May 2026, and the biggest box office draw in the history of women's basketball is being treated like a second-class citizen by her own franchise. Let me tell you something. The front office, led by Kelly Crosskop, has an agenda. They want to turn this team into a faceless corporate machine. They do not want one player being bigger than the brand, even if that player is filling every single arena in the country. It is backwards, it is short-sighted, and it is holding back a generational talent. But that's not even the worst part. Watch what happens next.
Is big. Now, the biggest question actually going into this basketball game is, will the Fever let Caitlin Clark play? Because the status report came out last night, and Caitlin Clark is listed again as probable to possibly play tonight. Could this be a little damage control to not have a friction type situation in Golden?
Look at the facts. Last night, the official injury report came out, and Stephanie White listed her franchise superstar as probable yet again. This isn't just about a physical ailment. This is about an organization creating unnecessary friction. They are intentionally using injury listings as psychological damage control because they are terrified of the online drama and the physical battles on the floor. Instead of protecting their star player and building the entire offense around her strengths, the coaching staff is actively stepping back, playing safe, and letting outside critics control the narrative.
We've watched Stephanie White come in here and take an offense that was flowing and want to change it and make Aaliyah Boston a hub and play her at point center. And, Kelsey Mitchell's the #1 priority. All of these things, this was an easy gig. You show up, you let Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston handle the offense, you handle the defense. This was an easy job. You got the Indiana Fever, you got the biggest star ever.
Think about the absurdity of this coaching strategy. Stephanie White walked into the easiest gig in professional sports. You have the ultimate playmaker, a legendary spacer, and an elite inside presence in Aaliyah Boston. All you have to do is let them run the high screen, spread the floor, and dictate the tempo. Instead, the coaching staff disrupted a system that was already flowing beautifully. They tried to transform a dominant transition offense into a slow half-court set, forcing a point center style that neutralizes their best weapon. When you don't make the greatest shooter on earth your absolute #1 priority, you are failing at your job.
Choosing to not put her in the front of promotions. You are choosing to put Raven Johnson on it and all of these other people. So I don't feel sympathetic for them. They've let it be known from the door. When this new front office came in with Kelly Crosskop and everybody, they wanted the Indiana Fever to become.
And here is the visual evidence of the ultimate disrespect. Look at the official promotional materials being pushed out by the organization. They are actively choosing to put alternative players in the center of their marketing campaigns, pushing their actual draw into the background. It is a deliberate corporate strategy to suppress the individual impact of a star who is single-handedly carrying this entire league financially. When the marketing department refuses to put the biggest athlete in the world at the forefront of their franchise, it sends a clear, toxic message to the entire locker room. And what comes next is the moment that broke this whole thing wide open.
Conclusion. When Caitlin Clark came out and said, hey, look, I got a little mental issue as it relates to these injuries. I got some hangover from last year and getting beat up and hey, it gets in my head. And that's why she said that she maybe out of being way too cautious, missed that game last week.
Here is the smoking gun that tells the real story. When the star player herself has to publicly admit that she is dealing with mental exhaustion and a hangover from getting beat up on the court, it proves the establishment is failing her. Make no mistake, when a coaching staff allows their franchise player to be physically abused night after night without drawing a line, it is a total failure of leadership. The front office is letting opposing teams target her with hyper-aggressive, physical play, and the toll it takes isn't just physical, it's a massive psychological burden.
Now, yesterday, Stephanie White did an interview, and she stated that Caitlin Clark is the first option. That was my first time actually hearing her say that. Now, can that possibly help her mental situation? Maybe, because it'll be hard knowing that you get all of this notoriety worldwide, and in the city and the team you play for, you're not the first option.
And let's look at the sudden shift in tone. Just yesterday, Stephanie White finally went on record in an interview, claiming that her superstar is indeed the primary first option on offense. Mark it down, that is the very first time we have heard those words come out of her mouth all season. Why did it take months of public backlash for a professional coach to state the obvious? Great players like Michael Jordan, LeBron James, and Kobe Bryant were never subjected to this kind of public hesitation. They were the undisputed top option from day one, no questions asked. And here's what nobody is reporting.
I do think Caitlin Clark is a little bit insane, but Michael Jordan was a bit insane. A lot of the greats were a little bit nutty. Now, does that make me more sympathetic towards Stephanie White? Absolutely not. No chance. It doesn't make me more sympathetic toward the Indiana Fever organization. We've watched this organization and this coach complicate this thing much more.
The great ones always carry a level of intense, burning obsession that casual observers call crazy. Michael Jordan had it. Kobe Bryant lived it. You cannot reach the absolute pinnacle of professional basketball without an unyielding, fiery emotion that threatens to boil over. But instead of channeling that competitive fire, this coaching staff treats it like a cultural problem that needs to be managed. They are trying to tame a tiger when they should be letting her hunt. Because the real story isn't just what happened tonight, it's what this means for everything coming next.
Once again, Jason, I can't have any sympathy for him, man, because a lot of that mental illness that you spoke about came from them and their organization. Now, granted, Caitlin Clark was dealing with a bunch of injuries last year, but Stephanie White came in and changed up her whole style of play. Now, I'm not trying to make any excuses for Caitlin Clark getting these injuries, but when you look at how last year actually went, you got to put a lot of the blame on Stephanie White and the Fever front.
Let's analyze this from historical comparisons. This is not the first time the basketball establishment has tried to suppress a generational icon. Back in 1997, during the inaugural WNBA season, legendary talents faced immediate, intense resentment from veterans who couldn't handle the sudden shift in media spotlight. Look back at 2008, when Candace Parker entered the league and swept both Rookie of the Year and MVP honors. The pushback from the old guard was fierce, aggressive, and highly personal. The pattern across sports history is entirely undeniable. Whenever an individual talent threatens to completely redefine the financial and cultural landscape of a sport, the existing power structure closes ranks to protect itself. We saw it decades ago, and we are seeing the exact same dynamic play out right now in Indianapolis.
Do Caitlin Clark, probably go a little extra with talking to the referees, go a little extra with being in the gym? Of course, what great player don't? But at the end of the day, you guys have the biggest star to ever grace the WNBA, and for whatever reason, you're not making her top priority. At least
consider the deeper layers of this organizational dysfunction through a multi-angle recap. First, look at the business angle. Suppressing your main attraction directly damages long-term ticket sales and alienates a massive, dedicated new fan base. Second, look at the locker room angle. When a coaching staff hesitates to name their best player as the definitive first option, it creates a massive divide and invites unnecessary confusion among teammates. Third, look at the league-wide angle. Television ratings thrive on dominant individual narratives, not overcomplicated corporate equality. The damage is occurring on 4 distinct levels, all because a front office refuses to embrace the blessing they were handed. And here's the one thing nobody is talking about. The biggest consequence of all is still coming.
I think my final score is going to be 88-84 Indiana Fever. I think this is going to be a highly competitive game. I think the Valkyries are going to throughout stages of the game show why they are the best defensive team in the league. And what will be interesting is how do the refs handle this game? It's a lot of talk about everything that went on. You got Natalie Nacosta, head coach of the Valkyries, already speaking about the officials yesterday. So it'll be interesting to see if they try to get a hold of this game and call a lot of Shea Gilgeous type fouls, or if they let them play. That will be interesting. But I got Caitlin Clark, 25 points, 10 assists, 6 rebounds. Indiana Fever 4-point win on the road.
When top-tier analysts are predicting dominant, multi-stat performances on the road, despite immense organizational friction, It shows that pure talent will always rise above a broken system. When a head coach tells the media her star isn't the sole focus, the players hear it, the fans hear it, and the opponents smell blood in the water. But true greatness cannot be contained by corporate agendas or hesitant coaching strategies. The real question is how long this front office can continue to work against their own best asset before the entire structure collapses under the weight of public scrutiny. Let me ask you this, and I want you to be completely honest in the comments below. Is Stephanie White intentionally holding back her superstar to protect the franchise brand, or is this just a classic case of a coach being completely out of her depth? If you are sick and tired of the mainstream sports media hiding the clear bias against the most entertaining player in the game today, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. We drop deep, unfiltered sports analysis every single evening, and you do not want to miss what we have coming next. Talk to you in the comments.